Welcome to the Happy Doc, the voice of fulfilled physicians. This show is about bringing inspirational, creative, successful, and happy health professionals to you. Get ready to learn how you can be a happy doctor too.
Hello, and welcome to the Happy Doc Podcast, a podcast dedicated to finding joy, creativity, and inspiration in the healthcare profession. My name is Neil Desai, and I am a family physician in Northern Kentucky and part of the Happy Doc team. I also run the medical influencers section of the Happy Doc website, www.thehappydoc.com. Once again, that website is www.thehappydoc.com. So feel free to check that out if you get a chance. Our team wanted to take this opportunity to thank you all for listening and supporting us at the Happy Doc. It's really been so amazing, and we've had such great feedback from all over the globe. Just to give you all a specific example, we even recently had a generous physician from Cameroon donate some of his time and money to our website. So special thanks to him and his team. It's much appreciated. Guys and girls, we are literally changing our healthcare world with our movement, so we encourage you to join us. Tell your colleagues, friends, and family about us, and make sure to share our podcast on all your social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, to be part of the change we want to see and deserve in healthcare. We also want all this to work better for you all. So if you have any questions or any suggestions for how we can improve and better serve you, please feel free to email us at thehappydoc1@gmail.com. And once again, that address is thehappydoc1@gmail.com. And with that being said, on to this week's podcast guest, Dr. Kevin Poe. Dr. Kevin Poe runs a very popular medical social media site, KevinMD, which has allowed physicians and patients to have a voice in navigating the dysfunctional American healthcare system. Dr. Poe discusses his medical career path in internal medicine, the origins of KevinMD, how it came about, why he created KevinMD, and the moment he saw social media could have an impact on healthcare. The calls to action from part one of this two-part podcast episode would be the following. Number one, define your online reputation before someone else does by filling in as many online spaces as possible. Number two, medical students, residents, and new clinicians should professionalize their online presence. And number three, define goals for using social media in medicine and then curate those goals to one's individual interests. Teasers for the upcoming Part 2 episode include the following: Dr. Poe's tips for preventing burnout and more on using social media to have positive impacts in healthcare. Hope you all enjoy this episode of The Happy Doc with Dr. Kevin Poe. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast as well as rate and share it as well. And now I present to you Dr. Taylor Brana and Dr. Kevin Poe. Gentlemen.
Hello, everyone. This is Taylor, and this is another episode of the Happy Doc. I am absolutely super ecstatically excited. I don't know how else to phrase this. I am really pumped for our next guest, and that is no one other than Dr. KevinMD or Kevin Poe. It is an absolute pleasure to have you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. Thank you so much for having me on.
Awesome. So as this is the Happy Doc, I wanted to start with some playful questions, some icebreakers for you. They're going to be super simple. But first off, Kevin Poe, what is your favorite color?
My favorite color is blue.
Now, did you just know is your favorite color, or do you have a specific reason?
That was the first thing that came to mind. I'm just thinking about my wardrobe and what I normally wear, what I gravitate to. So blue was the first thing that came to mind.
Awesome. And what is a favorite movie of yours?
A favorite movie of mine. Let me think. It's been a while since I've seen something really good. I actually like a lot of the old Hong Kong gangster movies.
Interesting.
So I'm a big fan of those late 80s, early 90s John Woo type movies. So I would say Hard Boiled is one. It's kind of a foreign film. The Killer is another one. But you know what? If something comes up later in the podcast that comes to mind, I'll definitely let you know. But that's the first thing that came to mind. It made an impression on me because I saw that when I was in college. I was a big fan of that genre.
Awesome. I love it. I'll be honest, I have no idea what those movies are, but I will be more than interested to check them out later. If you could have a superpower, what would it be and why?
If I were to have a superpower, I wish I could speak off the cuff and be less deliberate and less prepared, I think.
Wow.
I think that I could say it was either my strength or weaknesses. One of my strengths is that I'm completely organized. Everything has to be deliberate and prepared. So I see a lot of others who are a little bit more spontaneous. So I think I wish I could be a little bit more natural, a little bit more spontaneous, less prepared, more off the cuff, as you put it, which is why I think that these questions, I'm going to have to start thinking about it. But if something else comes up later on, which is why I always reserve the right to modify them. But that would be my superpower, to be a little bit more spontaneous.
I think it's so interesting because to me, that's not necessarily a superpower, right? But, for you, it's almost like a quality trait you're talking about where you tend to be very organized. And I just think it's very interesting for you. That's a power that you might want. Maybe something that you find very intriguing about other personalities. I just find that really interesting. What did you want to be when you grew up?
I knew I wanted to be in medicine from a young age. My mom worked in a hospital. She was a laboratory tech. I went into a 7-year program after high school. So I know pretty early on that I wanted to become a part of medicine, and that naturally led to being a physician. But I can say that my path certainly has been non-traditional since I became a doctor. But when I grew up, I would say something to do with healthcare and medicine.
Wow. Okay, great. So, and that's actually a theme that, we have within the podcast for sure. Is a lot of people really did feel like in some form this was a calling. Did this always feel like as you entered medical school, as you went along your journey, that this was a calling for you?
I think it was. I think there are a lot of obstacles, as you know, to becoming a physician when it comes to training, and even after practice, there are a lot of obstacles in our way. I think that if someone wanted to, say, make a lot of money, if they wanted to have that proverbial work-life balance, they won't necessarily go into medicine. People who become a doctor, they need it to be a calling. For me, I wanted to give patients a voice because our healthcare system suppresses their voices, and I think it's important for not only patients to have that voice, but I think it's important as a physician to help facilitate that and make them have a voice as they navigate through our dysfunctional healthcare system. So, yes, I think it absolutely is a calling.
Wonderful, wonderful. So those are mainly the rapid fire icebreaker questions. I had. I know those were the spontaneous questions, but I thought you did a fantastic job personally. So with that being said, I mean, everyone who's listening to this will know obviously that you are KevinMD. You have this amazing website that provides that voice for all of these physicians. Another great thing that you do provide is the fact that it can be anonymous, right? You can take any voice from any part of the country, medical students, I guess pre-medical students, residents, doctors, and you get all of these healthcare professionals onto one space. It's such an amazing tool. Before we start to discuss that, why did you choose internal medicine as opposed to the other fields?
I think when I finished medical school, I wasn't sure what exactly I wanted to spend rest of my life doing. Did I like one area of medicine so much more than the other that I wanted to specialize in it? I wasn't sure. So I went into internal medicine with the goal of hoping to find something to specialize in later. And once I finished 3 years of residency and started working in primary care, and once you start working and starting to make an attending salary, it's very difficult to go back. So I kind of stayed the course. And now I, of course, do speaking. I do KevinMD, and I do all my social media stuff and online reputation consulting, and that's really added something to what I do with internal medicine. So I didn't really have that goal in mind. I think that it was just more of maintaining the status quo and not finding something that I was passionate about until I found social media.
Wow. So speaking about social media, there must have been a few times, or at least a moment, where you suddenly got very inspired and said, you know what, I want to build something within social media. I want to build this website to provide voices. What was that moment for you?
I think that moment was when patients actually read what I wrote, and I've been doing this since 2004, and I think it was about 10, 12 years ago when I wrote something about a drug that was recalled, and a patient actually read my blog post and noticed it the next day and said, "Hey, Dr. Poe, I read your blog post." And that's when that proverbial light bulb moment came up and said, "Hey, other people are reading what I have to say." And I think it's a tremendously powerful tool, not only to connect with and educate patients, but as the platform evolved, it was a tremendous tool for other healthcare professionals to speak up and be heard, not only speak to patients, but also get their voice heard when it comes to healthcare reform, medical education reform, because there are so many instances where everyone in healthcare needs to have their say, because if we don't have our say in how our healthcare changes, then other people are going to make those decisions for us, and that's obviously not in our best interest.
Wow. Yeah, and I think about, the place that medicine is right now. Doctors have lost a great deal of their autonomy, and I'm sure you would agree with that. When you think about the stereotypical physician on their own in private practice doing house calls, that's not really the landscape that we play in anymore. And I think that this, your page and many other blog websites, you're providing at least some form of control or some way to express. Would you agree?
Yeah, that's eventually developed into one of my primary goals, because you said it exactly. I think that a lot of physicians, they've lost control not only of their practice, but the doctor-patient relationship, which used to be sacred. And now there are so many influences that affect that doctor-patient relationship. It could be the politicians, it could be the health insurers, it could be the drug companies. And as physicians, a lot of them do feel powerless when it comes to maintaining that sacrosanct relationship. So I think that my site and other physician blogs, it's important that they continue to speak up and advocate for patients, advocate for the profession, speak up against some of the hidden challenges against our medical profession, like burnout, like suicide, like all these other third-party influences that detract from that relationship. It's important for us to speak out, because if we don't, the status quo simply isn't acceptable.
Wow. Yeah, and I feel like, especially me, I'm in my intern year, and I don't have that huge of a scope of practice or sense of how things are, but I can tell you on a personal level, this is the most I've ever worked in my life. And I feel like it's just so easy to feel very stuck in the weeds, so stuck in your work that you don't even have a possible chance to even make improvements, let alone in the bigger system, but in your own life. I just feel like your page provides a little bit of that relief, especially for someone like me that has such little time. So I have to thank you again so much for what you do. Now, I wanted to ask you, whenever someone starts a project such as how you did, you can end up with a lot of challenges and difficulties as you're building, something like this. Did anyone tell you you weren't going to be able to create kind of, this massive website that you have? Did you have any great challenges along the path?
Certainly. I think doing this for as long as I have, I started back in 2004, so that's about 13 years now. Absolutely, there have been challenges in terms of, technical challenges, where this fits into my professional life, balancing KevinMD with what I do every day in my primary care clinic, balancing all of that with speaking and raising a family. I have 2 young daughters, so I think that there has been tremendous challenges in terms of prioritizing what I need to do. I think I talked about one of my strengths earlier being deliberate, organized. I think that one of my other strengths is that I'm pretty tenacious. I don't give up. I think that you have to have that trait in order to be in the social media platform space. I think that a lot of the gains when it comes to building an audience in terms of influence, it's very incremental. As you know, none of this happens overnight. And I think that a lot of the effort that gets put in, it's really small victories, small gains. And I think that it really fits with my personality in that I'm able to chip away, plug in, make these small improvements, keep at it for 13 years, keep track of the evolution of the various social media trends and adapt my site to fit those trends. So I think that it still is an ongoing challenge. But then that being said, it's been tremendously rewarding as well for all the reasons that you mentioned earlier. It's been rewarding becoming a gathering place for thousands of healthcare professionals. It's rewarding hearing from patients who read my site and say, I didn't know that's what doctors are thinking. I didn't know this is what goes on behind closed doors. And it's tremendously rewarding hearing from physicians saying they have a voice and from patients saying that they're interested and they're interested in hearing what doctors have to say. And I think that having that type of feedback just feeds me and gives me the energy to push forward and keep growing the site.
Wow. I loved what you just said. And actually, this was something that I had mentioned in a previous episode, but that word choice you just used there, it provides me energy. There's a lot of work that's very draining in our lives. But you just said it. There's a driver there that pushes you to do this work. And that's fantastic. Now, your page provides opportunities to people. And I think that's something that's really beautiful. It's not just you promoting yourself. Hardly that, if any. In fact, what you do is you promote, you are the microphone online for other people. Do you ever feel almost amazed that you've built this canvas that other people can put themselves out there on? Do you feel almost as if it's not you doing the work, so to speak, anymore?
I think that it's very gratifying that I have a constant readership that keeps coming back and reading the site. So I'm very thankful and very gracious for that. And I'm very fortunate that I can curate that content that people find interesting. Once you build a platform, I think it's tremendously powerful because all the infrastructure is put in, and not only from the blog itself, but also having a pretty big Twitter and Facebook following. And once you have that platform, other physicians and healthcare professionals are seeing that, like you said, as an opportunity to be heard. They don't necessarily have to build their own platform from scratch. They can contribute to KevinMD and they can be heard and get noticed. There have been authors who've been noticed by newspaper editors and use KevinMD as a jumping board to write op-eds in a newspaper. They've, television producers, book publishers, they've noticed some of the authors on my site. So once they realize that I have the platform, they can contribute to my site and be heard. And it's very gratifying to know that other physicians are benefiting from it. And it's also gratifying to know that people keep coming back and reading the content. Amazing.
And to shift gears in this conversation, we obviously need to speak about social media. In your case, you have developed your own book, Establishing, Managing, and Protecting Your Online Reputation, a social media guide for physicians and medical practices. You have that out there. You are a social media expert, especially in the physician space. So for all the listeners out there, what is the benefits of developing an online presence with social media, in your words?
So there are 3 benefits. The first is connecting with and educating patients, because the majority of patients are going online, of course, and Googling their diagnoses, and there's a lot of bad information out there. And I think it's important for physicians also to go online and create reputable sources of health information and guiding patients to more reputable sources. So that's number one. Number two, patients, of course, are Googling their doctors. And if physicians don't have their own online presence, they will be represented by a third party. And it could be something like a RateMDs, a Healthgrades, or Vitals, and they may not like how they're represented online. So if they have a social media presence, they can control and be more proactive as to how they're presented online. And the third reason is what we talked about having a voice. I think it's tremendously important that doctors speak up on healthcare reform, on the high cost of drugs, on the uninsured, on racial disparities. And, I think it's important for physicians to speak up on not only medicine itself, but also the social issues of medicine, the issues that often don't get reported. So I think that on a blog, there are a lot of stories and topics on my site that don't necessarily get represented on, say, the op-ed pages in the New York Times. So I think that having this format is a tremendous opportunity for physicians to speak up, and it's really imperative that they take advantage of that and be heard. So those are really, I think, the three big reasons why I think more health professionals need to be involved.
Wonderful. I love that. And I have two questions, but I'll start with this first one. So you speak in terms of mainly the practicing physician. What about the medical student who's just developing their online professional presence? Do you think it's important to start as soon as possible to develop this platform for yourself?
I think when it comes to medical students and residents, they are, as you know, social media natives. Like, I don't really need to convince medical students and residents to use social media because they've been using it for years already.
Sure.
So I think the key is translating what they know into a more professional milieu. So, translating that Facebook experience into perhaps, say, like a Facebook page, because when they practice, having a Facebook page to make that difference is tremendously powerful. So I do think that the biggest obstacle I see medical students face is really professionalizing their presence, because whether they like it or not, as future physicians, they're going to be held to a higher standard in the public. Whatever they say is a reflection not only of themselves, but whichever organization or hospital or medical institution they work for. So they don't really have a choice when it comes to professionalizing their presence. So they don't necessarily need to go out and build a platform like KevinMD. I'm not saying that, but they do need to start thinking about ways where they can use those social media skills they already know and adapt it to their future professional life in medicine.
Wonderful. I love that. And I hope all the younger listeners or earlier trainees can take that in. My second part to the question was, you mentioned the need in social media for us to define our online reputations before someone else does. What are some techniques that one might use to develop your online reputation before someone tries to tear you apart?
Sure. So the strategy is really just building as many online, filling in as many online spaces as you can. If they were to start from scratch, I would suggest a professional social network like LinkedIn or Doximity. Doximity is a physician-only social media site, and to build up presence on one of these sites, it's really just a digital translation of your CV. When medical students graduate and they start practicing, they could feed in their practice information to Google using a tool called Google My Business. And I think that doing all of these things should take no more than a few hours to do. And then after doing that, they should stop and think about what their goals are for social media. There are some physicians who want to use social media to, say, connect with patients and educate them. There are some physicians who simply just want to go on Twitter and listen to what their colleagues have to say. And there are some physicians who want to create that content. It could be someone like a Zubin Damani, a ZDoggMD, right? He creates fantastic videos educating the public. He hosts a Facebook Live show. It could be something like a KevinMD, where you have a platform of physician voices. So I think that it depends on what your goals are, and you want to use that social media platform that fits your specific goal. But as a start, you want to start with building a profile, and then as you move forward, you want to incrementally adopt other platforms based on the time you have and based on your goals.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I really liked that point you made about curating or taking into account what your goals are and then managing your social media based on your goals. Having that really personalized, unique approach, I think is a great tip. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed this episode, and we want you to definitely subscribe to our social media channels. Check out The Happy Doc on Facebook, iTunes, Twitter, and Instagram. Please like, subscribe, share, and send us feedback. And please check out the website, www.thehappydoc.com. Again, we hope you enjoyed The Happy Doc, the voice of fulfilled physicians. Peace out.